Have you ever just sat quietly, maybe late at night, and whispered to yourself, "Why am I even doing this? Why keep going?" It's okay to feel that way. You're not alone. I think we all ask that question sometimes, even if only in our heads, even if we never say it out loud. And I want you to know it's not a sign of weakness. It's honesty. It's the soul finally daring to be real, to stop pretending everything is fine. If you stay with me, maybe for the next few minutes, I want to share something that could change the way you see life, the wobbliness of life, and why maybe it's still worth taking a breath right now. And hey, if this speaks to you, maybe hit that subscribe button so we can explore this together. I want to start by clearing up a big misunderstanding. You may have heard someone say, "Life is suffering," and it sounded harsh, maybe hopeless. And I get it, it does sound that way. But that's not what it really means. Not exactly. Life isn't just pain. It isn't all bad. It isn't a sentence meant to make you sad. Maybe it's easy to think of it like this. Imagine a doctor gently telling you, "You have a fever." The doctor isn't trying to scare you or ruin your day. She's trying to help you see what's really going on so healing can start. That's what the Buddha was doing. He was naming something real, something honest, not try to make life harder. He used a word, dukkha. It's not just about pain in your body. It's a little deeper than that. Dukkha is like a quiet hum that follows us, even when things look okay. There's the obvious layer, the things we all notice. Sickness, losing someone we love, failing at something important. That hurts, and it's natural to feel it. But there's a second layer, one that maybe surprises you. The happiness we chase, the moments that feel perfect, they don't last. A vacation ends, a new relationship changes, a goal we work toward reaches its peak, and then it's over. That fading, that quiet shift, it's another kind of ache. We want things to stay the way they are. We cling, sometimes without even realizing it, and that creates a little tension we carry around, like a soft knot we can't quite untangle. Then there's a third layer, the sneakiest one. Even when everything seems fine, your job is steady, your family is loving, your health is okay, there might still be a tiny whisper inside, a sense that something's missing. It's like sitting on a chair that's a little uneven, not broken, not dangerous, but you can never fully relax. That subtle wobble, that quiet unease, that's the heart of dukkha. And here's the thing, noticing it isn't giving up. It isn't failing at life. It's just noticing gently, softly. Many people hear this and think, then why bother? If life is always like this, maybe I should just stop trying. But the beauty here is that's not what life or Buddhism is asking of you. Life with its wobble isn't an excuse to give up. It's an invitation to wake up, to learn how to move through it with care, maybe even a little grace. Think of it like a sailor facing a storm. One sailor panics, lets go of the wheel, and hopes for the best. The boat gets tossed around. Another sailor sees the same storm, takes a breath, adjusts the sails, and keeps steering. It's not about avoiding the storm. It's about learning to ride it gently, bravely, without pretending it isn't there. Maybe that's all we can do. Notice the storm, notice the wobble, and breathe. Maybe we start small. Maybe we just notice our hands gripping the edges of the chair, our chest tightening, the thoughts that whisper, "This isn't fair." And then maybe we say, softly, "It's okay. I can sit with this." There's a strange strength in that, a quiet courage. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's just being honest with ourselves in the moment, without needing to fix everything right away. I remember a time when a friend of mine had just lost something very dear to her, a relationship she thought would last, a dream she worked so hard for. At first, she was angry, frustrated, restless. But one evening, she just sat quietly, noticing the tightness in her chest, her racing thoughts. She didn't have answers. She didn't even try to change things. She just let herself be, and slowly, imperceptibly, the sharp edges of her pain softened. She could breathe again. She could see that the storm hadn't destroyed her. It had just reminded her she could keep going. Maybe that's the invitation here, too, to be brave enough to stop pretending, to notice the wobble, to hold ourselves gently through the storm, to start walking, even a little, in the direction of something quieter, something real. And maybe, if this whispers to you the way it whispers to me, you'll stick around, and we can walk this path together. Hit that subscribe button, and maybe one small breath at a time, we can learn to move through life with a little more softness, a little more courage, a little more peace. Maybe now you're wondering, if life always has this wobble, this quiet unrest, where does it come from? Why do we feel this low, restless hum even when everything looks okay on the outside? And maybe that question feels heavy. That's okay. It's okay to sit with it. The Buddha had a way of pointing inward. He didn't blame the world, your boss, your partner, or bad luck. He looked at the mind, that messy, restless place inside each of us, and noticed a pattern. He called it tanha, which basically means craving, clinging, that quiet hunger that never fully goes away. We crave the things we like. We resist the things we don't. And when we have something good, we clutch it like it's permanent, even though deep down we know it won't last. It's like try and hold water in your hands. Maybe you felt that way, holding on to a feeling, a memory, a person, a job, thinking, if only this would stay, I'd be happy. And then somehow it slips away anyway. Think of it like building a sandcastle by the sea. You spend hours making it perfect. The towers, the walls, the little moat. You call it yours. It's part of your identity, your success, your memories, your body, your reputation. And for a while, it feels solid. You feel proud, safe, but you can hear the ocean behind you. You know the waves are coming. You know the tide will change. Yet somehow, you live as if it's a stone fortress, as if it will never be washed away. And then, inevitably, a wave hits. Maybe it's a small one. Someone criticizes you. Your plans change. Something doesn't go as expected. That little wave stings. Then a bigger wave comes. Illness, loss, separation, death. That's when fear rises. Anger, panic, grief. And all along, there's this quiet dread of the next wave. The wave we cannot control. The waves themselves aren't the problem. The ocean isn't cruel. The problem is that we believed our sandcastle could last forever. We clung. We begged. We fought against what was always going to happen. From this clinging, these fires arise. The Buddha described 3 of them: greed, the craving for more, the desire to make the castle bigger, taller, safer; anger, the frustration and bitterness toward the waves, the people, the world that touch it; and delusion, the stubborn belief that the castle is permanent, that life should go exactly the way we want. These aren't random moods that appear and vanish. They're like smoke rising from a fire that has always been burning. And the fire is our attachment. Maybe you've noticed it in your own life. You get a promotion, a new relationship, a new gadget, and for a while, it feels like everything is right. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the craving returns. You want more, better, different. You cling. You fear. You suffer. It's endless, this cycle, unless we notice it. And noticing is the first, softest step. Here's something important. The Buddha didn't just leave us with the problem. That would be too cruel. He pointed toward hope. He said, yes, the fires exist. Yes, craving hurts. Yes, we will wobble. But there's a way to slowly, gently put out the flames. It's not a magic trick. It's not instant. It's a journey. And the first step is awareness. Seeing the sandcastle for what it is, seeing the waves for what they are, and seeing ourselves holding it, trembling a little. I remember another friend who had a sandcastle moment. She had worked for years to build a perfect life, a career, a social image. Friends she thought she could count on. And then, one by one, things changed. Friends moved away. The job shifted. And she felt the castle collapsing. She tried to control it, to patch it up, to scream at the waves. But nothing worked. And one night, she did something different. She sat quietly on the sand. She watched the waves come and go. She let herself feel the loss. She didn't need to fix it. And for the first time, she noticed something strange. Even as parts of the castle were washed away, she could breathe. She could still see the beauty of the remaining sand. And she realized she was bigger than the castle, bigger than the waves. Maybe that's what we're learning here. The wobble isn't a punishment. It's the ocean reminding us that nothing lasts, and that clinging will always hurt, but also that we are not defined by what gets washed away. Maybe, just maybe, freedom begins when we notice the fires, when we see the craving, the anger, the confusion, without judgment. It's soft. It's quiet. It's enough to start. So, if you're sitting there right now, feeling that hum, that wobble, that quiet ache, it's okay. Take a deep breath. Maybe whisper to yourself, it's okay. I see it. I can start here. And if you want to continue this journey together, maybe stick around. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll explore what it looks like to let the sandcastle be, to ride the waves, and to slowly, gently find the calm beneath the fire. Maybe now you're wondering, okay, I see the fires. I see the waves. I see how clinging makes everything ache. But is there really a way out? Is there really a place where this constant wobble quiets down? And I want you to know, maybe, just maybe there is. And the beautiful thing is, it's not far away. It's not some distant, unreachable heaven. It's closer than you think. The Buddha called it nibbana or nirvana. I know the word can feel heavy, like it's some abstract, spiritual goal that only monks or enlightened people can touch. But it's not like that. It simply means the fires go out. The greed, the anger, the confusion, they stop burning. And what's left is space, peace, calm, a kind of quiet we may have forgotten even existed. Imagine a room that's been on fire for as long as you can remember. Flames everywhere, smoke thick, heat pressing in. You've been running around trying to put out the little fires, dodging sparks, shielding yourself from the heat. You're exhausted, and maybe you didn't even realize how tired you were. And then, slowly, the fires die down. The smoke clears. The heat fades. And for the first time in a long time, you can just breathe. You can see the walls of the room. You can feel the coolness. You can notice the light. That is what nibbana is like. And here's the whispering part. It doesn't have to wait until you die. It doesn't have to be some mystical future. It can happen now, in tiny moments. Maybe it's the moment you notice a craving rising and choose not to act on it. Maybe it's the moment you feel anger, and instead of letting it control you, you just watch it softly, gently. Maybe it's when you feel sadness, and you allow it to be there without being consumed. In those small moments, you are touching the calm of nibbana. You are breathing in the space between the fires. I remember a friend who struggled for years with jealousy and resentment. It was like a constant heat in her chest, burning quietly every day. She tried ignoring it, tried shoving it down, tried distracting herself with busy work and social media. Nothing worked. And then one day, she started noticing it, not judging it, not trying to make it disappear, just noticing it. Ah, jealousy is here. I feel it tugging at my chest. And slowly, over weeks and months, that heat softened. The smoke thinned. She didn't become perfect. She still felt jealousy sometimes, but she was no longer burned by it. She could choose how to act. She could breathe. That's freedom. That's nibbana. Maybe you've had tiny glimpses of this already without realizing it. Moments when a craving didn't pull you in. Moments when anger rose, and you just noticed it without reacting. Moments when grief appeared, and you held it gently like a small, crying child without trying to run. Those moments are the doorway. They're whispers of the calm that can grow. And here's something I want to say softly, just between us. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to be perfect. You may stumble. You may get pulled into the waves again, and that's okay. The calm is not a reward for being flawless. It's a space that becomes available each time you stop fighting, each time you notice, each time you breathe and say, "It's okay. I can be here." That's the practice. That's the beginning of freedom. Maybe it helps to imagine it like walking in a forest after a long storm. The path is muddy, the branches low, the air damp, but then the sun peeks through. The leaves glisten. You notice the scent of the wet earth. You take a breath. You start walking slowly, softly. You're still in the forest. The storm isn't gone, but you're learning the rhythm. You're noticing the space between the raindrops, the calm between the waves, the pause between the fires. That pause is nibbana. That pause is peace. That pause is alive right here, right now. So maybe this is the invitation to notice the fires, to see the sandcastle, to feel the waves, and to start letting the heat soften, not to force it, not to judge yourself for still feeling it, but to breathe and notice and let the small moments of calm grow. And if this feels like something you want to explore together, maybe stick around, subscribe, and we'll continue walking this path softly, step by step, breath by breath, discovering what it really feels like to have the fires cool, to have the smoke clear, to have space in your mind again. So now you might be thinking, this all sounds beautiful, but how do I actually get there? How do I touch that calm, that space where the fires stop burning? And the answer is simpler than you might expect. It's not about magic, and it's not about perfection. It's about small steps, gentle training, and learning to live differently, but in a way that doesn't feel forced. The Buddha didn't just leave people with a map and say, "Good luck." He offered a path, not a rigid one, not a complicated ritual, a practical, gentle path that trains the mind, the heart, and the way we live in the world. And you know what's beautiful about it? You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to be perfect. Maybe you start with one small thing, notice it, and slowly, softly, the practice grows. You could think of it like going to a gym, but instead of lifting weights for your body, you're lifting your mind, your heart, your attention. And just like with any exercise, it's slow at first. You might wobble. You might feel weak. That's okay. It's normal. What matters is showing up, noticing, practicing, and being gentle with yourself. The first part of this practice is about living ethically, about tending your actions and word with care. It's beautifully simple. Try not to hurt others. Try not to lie or steal. Try not to lash out in anger. And it's okay if you fail sometimes. We all do. What matters is seeing the impact of your actions, noticing how cruelty, dishonesty, or harshness feeds your own inner fire. Even small moments of honesty and kindness begin to calm the smoke. It's like letting a little fresh air into the room that's been on fire. Slowly, the heat softens. The second part is about training the mind. Our minds are like restless children, always running off into the past, the future, worries, daydreams, anxieties. Training the mind is learning to gently bring it back, softly, to this moment, to the breath, to the sensations of being alive. Imagine sitting for a moment, just noticing one breath, the inhale, the exhale. Maybe it feels small. Maybe it feels insignificant. But over time, it builds a quiet strength, a calm center you can return to whenever the waves of craving, anger, or restlessness arise. The third part is about developing wisdom, but not in a complicated academic way. It's just learning to see your own mind clearly, noticing thoughts and emotions as they rise and fall, without getting swept away by them. For example, when anger appears, instead of becoming anger, you might softly notice, anger is here. It feels tight. It feels hot. You watch it gently, without judgment. And in that simple observation, something shifts. You're already a little freer. You're already a little calmer. Of course, the path isn't always easy. The Buddha called 5 common obstacles the 5 hindrances, and maybe you've met them yourself. Desire, craving the pleasant, resisting the unpleasant. Ill will, irritation, resentment, pushing away what you don't like. Sloth and torpor, the heaviness, the laziness, the dullness that keeps us stuck. Restlessness and worry, that jittery mind that jumps from one thought to the next. And doubt, the paralyzing uncertainty that makes us question ourselves and the path. Here's a soft, honest truth. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to push them away. You just notice, desire is here. Ill will is here. Restlessness is here. And maybe, slowly, softly, without trying to force anything, they begin to lose their power. You start to feel a rhythm, the gentle balance between steady effort and letting go, between being present and offer yourself kindness when you stumble. That rhythm, that soft, persistent practice, is the heart of the path. And the beautiful thing is, as you walk it, you start to notice small shifts in your life. You don't become perfect, emotionless, or immune to the waves. You become more human, more alive, more awake. You feel the pain, but you're not swallowed by it. You move through life like an artist, working with whatever colors you're given. The dark, the light, the joy, the sorrow, and slowly, quietly, shaping them into something meaningful. I think of a friend who lost someone very dear. The grief was immense, crushing at times. But she didn't run. She didn't pretend it wasn't there. She learned to sit with it, to hold it gently, to breathe through the waves of sorrow. And bit by bit, she discovered something remarkable. The pain didn't vanish, but it didn't define her anymore. She was bigger than the pain. She was free to love again, to laugh again, to live fully, without being trapped by what she had lost. Maybe that's the promise here. The path isn't about avoiding life's storms. It's not about escaping suffering. It's about learning to navigate, to notice, to breathe, to soften, to hold what's hard with a quiet, steady heart. And each small moment, noticing a craving, observing an emotion, choosing kindness, is a step on that gentle journey, a step toward calm, toward space, toward peace. If this feels like something you want to explore, maybe stick around, maybe subscribe. Maybe together we can take these small steps softly, gently, and discover what it really feels like to live with the fires quieting, to move through life with more space, more awareness, more calm. Because it's not somewhere far away. It's here, right now. Maybe now you're thinking, all of this sounds beautiful, but does it really make a difference? Can all this noticing, breathing, softening really change how life feels? And the answer, softly, is yes, but not in a flashy way, not like magic. It's quiet, it's subtle, and sometimes it's almost invisible at first. Imagine your mind as a room that's been cluttered for years. There's stuff everywhere. Old boxes, broken furniture, piles of things you didn't even realize were there. The clutter doesn't disappear all at once. You start slowly, picking up one small piece, noticing it, maybe putting it in order. You dust a shelf here, sweep a corner there. Slowly, quietly, the room begins to feel different. There's space. There's light. That's what the practice does. Little by little, the fires calm, the smoke clears, and you notice peace. Walking this path doesn't mean you stop feeling. You don't become some perfect, emotionless person. In fact, you become more human, more alive. You start to notice your emotions without being swept away. You see joy without clinging to it, sadness without drowning in it, anger without letting it control you. You feel everything more clearly, more fully, because you're not trapped by it. I remember a friend who had spent years letting fear rule her life. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss. She avoided opportunities, stayed small, and carried a quiet tension everywhere she went. And then, slowly, she started to practice noticing. When fear arose, she would just pause, breathe, and say softly, I see you. I feel you. Not pushing it away, not trying to fix it. And little by little, she began to take small steps she never would have before, speaking up, trying new things, connecting more deeply with people. The fear didn't vanish completely, but it lost its power. And with that small freedom came joy, curiosity, and a kind of quiet courage she hadn't known she had. And that's what walking the path does. It doesn't remove life's challenges, but it changes how we meet them. Pain still comes, loss, betrayal, illness, disappointment. It's real. It matters. It deserves to be felt. But now, instead of being swallowed by it, you can sit with it. You can hold it gently, like a small child who is crying. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it disappear. You just sit. You breathe. You stay. And slowly the intensity softens. You start to see that you are bigger than the pain, that it doesn't define you. I think of a woman I knew who lost a child. The grief was devastating, like a storm that would never end. At first, it broke her. She felt lost, hollow, helpless. But over time, she began to practice in the simplest way, noticing her emotions, allowing herself to cry, breathing to the heaviness, being present with the memories, the love, the loss. And gradually, she found that she could hold the sadness without being destroyed by it. She could remember her child with warmth instead of only pain. She could keep living, keep loving, keep walking forward, carrying the grief like a quiet, sacred weight instead of a chain. And that, maybe, is one of the most powerful lessons of this path. The goal isn't to erase life's difficulties. The goal is to transform your relationship with them, to learn how to be present, to be gentle, to be aware, to hold yourself and others with kindness, to take whatever life gives you, joy, loss, beauty, heartbreak, and slowly, quietly, shape it into wisdom and compassion. Maybe that's why we live. Even though life wobbles, even though the waves come and go, maybe it's not about finding some perfect, permanent happiness. Maybe it's about learning to walk through the storm with a steady, soft heart. Maybe it's about touching small moments of peace, seeing the light, even in the dark. And maybe, slowly, these small moments grow until they become a quiet, lasting space within you. If you're listening, maybe you can start here, right now. Take a slow breath. Notice your body. Notice the quiet hum inside. Maybe you can whisper to yourself, "It's okay. I can be here. I can start small." And if you want, we can continue this journey together. Maybe stick around, subscribe, and together we can explore how to hold the storms, the waves, the sandcastles, and gently, softly, find calm in the middle of it all. Maybe now you're wondering, okay, I see how this helps me feel calm, but what about life itself? What about love, connection, joy? And the beautiful thing is, this path doesn't just soothe the fires inside you. It opens a space for life to flow more fully, for love, for connection, for presence. Think about it for a moment. When your mind is restless, when your heart is tangled in craving or fear, it's hard to really see the people around you. You might be with someone you care about deeply, but part of you is still clinging, worrying, or distracted. Maybe you say the words, but they don't reach. Maybe you give a hug, but it's stiff with tension. That quiet restlessness keeps us from being truly present. But as you practice noticing the fires, as you learn to breathe, as you gently soften into awareness, something changes. Suddenly, you notice your friend smile. You hear the subtle tone in your partner's voice. You feel the warmth of your child's hand in yours. You're not perfect. You're not immune to fear or pain, but you're more available. You're more open. You can be there fully, even when life wobbles. I remember a friend who struggled with resentment toward her family. She carried it quietly for years, and it clouded everything. She started practicing small, gentle awareness, noticing the anger, breathing, softening. And slowly, without forcing forgiveness, she found she could laugh at an old family story, notice a shared joke, feel warmth without panic. She didn't erase the past. She didn't pretend the pain never happened. But she found space to connect again, and that space, quiet, tender, soft, was freedom. And it's not just about others. It's about loving yourself, too. Maybe you've been harsh with yourself, critical, constantly comparing. The fires of greed, anger, and delusion often live there, inside. The practice helps you notice that too. You might whisper, "It's okay. I can be here. I can breathe. I can soften." And slowly, the critical voice eases. You're not perfect. You're not expected to be. But you can treat yourself with gentle care, like you were a friend, like you a small child who needs your attention and warmth. This is where life starts to feel richer, even in its ordinary moments. Maybe it's noticing the sunlight on the leaves as you walk. Maybe it's laughing with someone over a small, silly thing. Maybe it's feeling gratitude for a meal, a cup of tea, a quiet breath. These small moments become bigger because you're not lost in craving, fear, or anger. You're here, softly, fully, and in this presence, love begins to flow more naturally, to yourself, to others, to the world. I think of a woman who had spent years chasing accomplishments, validation, praise. Her mind was always on the next goal, the next step, the next achievement. But when she began practicing small awareness, noticing breath, observing emotions, softening the heart, she found she could sit quietly with her partner without talking, hold her child without thinking about what comes next, Just be. And in that being, something remarkable happened. Love deepened. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic, but it was steady, quiet, present, and real. And maybe this is the gift of walking the path. It doesn't promise a life without difficulty. Storms will come. Waves will rise. Sandcastles will erode. But it teaches us to move through life differently, to feel fully, to hold, to soften, to notice, to love without clinging, to connect without losing ourselves, to be present in the messy, imperfect, beautiful reality of life. So, if you're listening, maybe you can start here softly. Maybe notice the next breath. Maybe reach out to someone you care about, gently, without expectation. Maybe let yourself feel the small warmth of life around you. And if you want to continue exploring this path together, maybe stick around, subscribe, and we'll keep walking gently, softly, discovering how the practice of noticing, softening, and breathing can open life to love, presence, and connection, even in the wobble, even in the waves. Maybe by now you're thinking, all this sounds good when life is small and ordinary, but what about the really hard stuff? The heartbreak, the loss, the grief that feels like it could crush you. And that's the moment where this practice, softly, quietly, can be most powerful. It doesn't pretend the pain isn't there. It doesn't offer a quick fix, a distraction, or a story about why it shouldn't hurt. The pain is real. It deserves to be felt. And maybe the first step is simply allowing that truth to be there, saying to yourself gently, it's okay. It hurts. I see it. I can breathe through it. Just noticing, just sitting with it, not fighting, not running, not pretending. I remember a friend who lost her mother unexpectedly. The grief was a storm, relentless, overwhelming. She tried to push it away at first. She tried to stay busy, to distract herself, to be strong. But nothing worked. The sadness kept coming back, louder each time. And then, slowly, softly, she started to do something different. She allowed herself to feel the grief fully. She cried. She remembered. She held the memory gently, like holding a fragile bird in her hands. And in that act of gentle attention, something began to shift. The grief didn't vanish, but it stopped controlling her. She could breathe. She could live. She could even laugh sometimes. This is one of the quietest, most profound gifts of the path. Learning to hold pain without being destroyed by it. Imagine grief or anger or fear as a small, crying child. You don't try to make the child disappear. You don't yell at it or run away. You hold it. You breathe. You offer your calm, steady presence. And in that presence, the storm inside begins to soften. Slowly, gently, the fires lose some of their heat. It's not easy. There will be moments when the waves feel enormous. But the practice gives us tools, small, gentle tools, to navigate them, not to escape them, not to become numb, but to be fully alive with them without being crushed. To notice the pain, to breathe, to soften, to hold. And in that holding, we find our strength, our clarity, our space. Maybe it helps to imagine standing in the rain without an umbrella. At first, you feel soaked. You want to run. You want to hide. But if you stop struggling, if you allow yourself to just feel the rain on your skin, notice the sound of it, the smell of wet earth, slowly you might start to feel something different. Not dry, not perfect, but fully alive, fully present. And in that presence, there's a strange, quiet kind of peace. That's what facing grief with awareness can feel like. I think of another friend who faced a trail, a deep, personal wound that left him angry and hurt for years. He started practicing noticing, softening, breathing. He didn't rush forgiveness. He didn't pretend it didn't hurt. But over time, he discovered he could hold the anger and pain without letting it define him. He could live without being trapped by what had happened. And slowly, the space inside him grew. Space to think, space to breathe, space to love again. Maybe this is the key. The path doesn't erase life's tragedies. It doesn't shield you from loss, sickness, heartbreak, but it gives you a way to meet life fully, even in its most painful moments, and still find a space of calm, a space of clarity, a space of love. It's the quiet courage to face the waves without being swept away, to hold the sandcastle lightly without letting it crush you, to allow the fires to soften without running from the heat. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that as you practice, you start to see that the hard moments themselves can teach you something. The grief, the anger, the fear, they are teachers. They show you what you cling to, what you resist, what you hold too tightly. They show you where the fires burn. And when you meet them softly, with awareness, with patience, with breath, the very presence of that pain becomes a doorway to freedom. So maybe if you're listening, you can start here, softly. Notice one place where life aches. Breathe. Allow it to be there. Hold it gently. And maybe stick around, subscribe, and together we'll continue exploring how to walk through life storms, the big waves, the dark clouds, the trembling sandcastles, and find calm, clarity, and strength, even when the world feels heavy. Maybe now you're thinking, this all sounds profound, but what about everyday life? How do I bring this into the little ordinary moments? And the gentle truth is, this is where the magic quietly lives. It's not just in big revelations or extraordinary experiences. It's in the small, soft moments where life often passes unnoticed. Imagine waking up in the morning, the alarm buzzing, the coffee brewing, the world already asking so much of you. Maybe before you'd rush, feeling tense, thinking about what needs to get done, worried about what went wrong yesterday. But now, maybe you pause for just a breath. You notice the warmth of the blanket, the quiet sound of the kettle, the light slipping in through the window. Noticing doesn't take long. It's just a moment, but in that moment, the mind softens, the tension eases, the fire calms just a little, and that small shift can ripple through your whole day. Or think about conversations with the people around you. Before, maybe your mind wandered, planning, judging, or reacting. But when you practice being present, something subtle changes. You notice the tone in their voice, the small smile, the pause before words. You listen, really listen, and maybe for the first time in a while, you feel fully connected. You're not just hearing words. You're seeing the person. You're being with them, and that being with them quietly nourishes both of you. I remember a friend who always felt frustrated with her kids, snapping at small things, exhausted by constant noise and chaos. She began practicing tiny moments of awareness, noticing her breath before responding, softening before speaking, and slowly the tension shifted. She still felt tired. She still had moments of irritation, but she began to respond differently, with more patience, more presence. She noticed the laughter, the little acts of kindness, the fleeting moments of beauty in the ordinary, and the relationships she had thought were exhausting slowly became a source of quiet joy and connection. Even chores, even walking to the store, even washing dishes, all of it becomes a kind of gentle meditation. You notice the sensation of the water, the sound of your steps, the weight of the groceries in your hands. Noticing doesn't take time away from life. It's not extra. It's life itself felt fully. And in these moments, the fires, greed, anger, delusion lose a little their hold. The mind softens. You start to live in the space between activity and awareness, between doing and simply being. And the beauty is, the practice doesn't have to be perfect. You might forget to notice. You might get swept away in worry or craving. That's okay. The gentle invitation is always there. Just pause, breathe, notice. Even one small breath, one small moment begins to ripple. Even one quiet act of attention, one soft act of kindness begins to shift the mind. I think of a man who felt stuck in his work, always stressed, always chasing deadlines, always exhausted. He started practicing little pauses, noticing the feel of his chair, the weight of his pen, the sound of the printer. It sounds small, almost silly, but those tiny moments of presence began to build a rhythm of calm in the day. And over time, the stress didn't vanish, but it felt lighter. He could meet the chaos of life with more steadiness, more patience, more clarity. And that lightness, that presence, began to flow into his relationships, his decisions, his entire sense of being. Maybe that's the gift here. The path doesn't require grand gestures or extraordinary circumstances. It's quietly, gently, transforming ordinary life, one breath, one pause, one moment of noticing at a time. And as you practice, you begin to see life differently. You start to notice the richness in the small. You start to feel the connection with people, with nature, with yourself. You start to realize that life, even with its wobble, its waves, its fires, can be tender, vibrant, and profoundly alive. So maybe if you're listening, you can start here, softly. Notice one ordinary thing. One cup of tea, one step on the sidewalk, one breath. Let it be enough. Let the presence grow quietly in your life. And if you want, stick around, subscribe, and we can keep exploring together how ordinary moments, the small everyday life, can become a living meditation, a gentle path toward calm, connection, and presence, even amidst the wobble of life. Maybe now you're thinking, all this sounds beautiful, but what about the little ordinary moments of life? Can this really make a difference in my day-to-day? And the truth, softly, is yes. That's where the practice quietly works its magic. Not in grand revelations, not in dramatic awakenings, but in the tiny, gentle details we often overlook. Imagine waking up in the morning. The alarm buzzes. The world starts demanding things of you before you're ready. Before, maybe you'd rush, heart tight, thinking about all that needs to get done, worried about what went wrong yesterday or what might go wrong today. But now maybe you pause just for a breath. You notice the warmth of the blanket, the quiet sound of the kettle, the way the sunlight slips softly through the window. That tiny moment, barely a second, is already a step toward peace. Your mind softens just a little, and the day begins differently. Or think about conversations with the people around you. Before, maybe your mind wandered, planning, judging, or reacting. But when you practice being present, something subtle and beautiful happens. You notice the tone in their voice, the slight pause before a word, the little smile that almost goes unnoticed. You listen, really listen. And for the first time in a long while, you feel truly connected. You're not just hearing words. You're seeing the person. You're being with them. And that being with them quietly nourishes both of you. I remember a friend who always felt frustrated with her kids. Every small noise felt like a burden. Every little mess felt overwhelming. She started practicing tiny moments of awareness, noticing her breath before speaking, softening before reacting, and slowly the tension shifted. She still felt tired. She still got frustrated, but she could respond differently. She could see the laughter, notice the little acts of kindness, feel the fleeting moments of beauty in the ordinary. And the relationships she had thought were exhausting slowly became a source of quiet joy, connection, and tenderness. Even chores, even errands, even washing dishes, these moments can become a kind of meditation. You notice the warmth of the water, the weight of the groceries, the rhythm of your steps. Noticing doesn't take extra time. It's not a task. It's life itself fully alive. And in these simple, small acts, the fires, craving, anger, confusion, lose a little of their hold. The mind softens. You begin to live in that gentle space between doing and being, between action and presence. And here's the soft, beautiful thing. The practice doesn't have to be perfect. You will forget. You will get swept away. That's okay. The gentle invitation is always there. Pause, breathe, notice, soften. Even one small breath, one quiet moment, can ripple through your day. Even one soft act of attention or kindness begins to shift your mind. I think of a man who felt stuck in his work, always stressed, always chasing deadlines, always exhausted. He started practicing tiny pauses, noticing the chair he sat on, the feel of the pen in his hand, the sound of the printer. It sounds small, almost silly, but those tiny moments of presence quietly built a rhythm of calm in his day. And over time, the stress didn't vanish, but it felt lighter. He could meet life's chaos with steadiness, with patience, with clarity. And that lightness began to flow into his relationships, his choices, and the way he experienced each day. Maybe that's the gift here. The path doesn't require grand gestures or extraordinary circumstances. It quietly, gently transforms ordinary life. One breath, one pause, one small moment of noticing at a time. And as you practice, you begin to see life differently. You notice richness in the small. You feel connection with people, with nature, with yourself. You start to realize that life, even with its wobble, its waves, its small fires, can be tender, vibrant, and profoundly alive. So maybe if you're listening, you can start here softly. Notice one ordinary thing, one cup of tea, one step on the sidewalk, one breath. Let it be enough. Let the presence grow quietly in your life. And if you want, stick around, subscribe, and together we can explore how ordinary life, all those little moments, can become a gentle meditation, a living path toward calm, clarity, and connection, even in the middle of life's wobble. Maybe now you can feel it, a soft, quiet sense that life, even with all its wobble, its waves, its ups and downs, can be lived fully. And maybe you're wondering, okay, I see the practice, I see the presence, but what does it mean to really live? How do I keep walking when life is unpredictable, when the waves are strong? And the gentle answer is this. Living fully is not about perfection. It's not about having all the answers, or never feeling pain, or never being afraid. It's about learning to move through life with awareness, softness, and courage, noticing the waves without being swept away, holding the sandcastle lightly, without letting it crush you. Imagine life like a vast ocean. There are storms. Sure, there are moments when the waves feel overwhelming, when the sky is dark and the wind is cold. But there are also calm mornings, gentle tides, and golden sunlight that paints the water. The path we've been talking about, noticing, softening, breathing, being present, is like learning to sail. You may not control the ocean. You may not control the storms. But you can learn to navigate, to adjust your sails, to keep your balance, to move forward with grace. And in this navigation, you discover something quietly profound. You discover that impermanence, the ebb and flow of everything, is not a threat. It's a teacher. It shows you that every moment is precious, that every breath matters, that every smile, every touch, every fleeting joy is a gift. The very fact that life changes, that nothing lasts forever, is what makes it beautiful, what gives it meaning, what calls us to live with care, with attention, with love. I remember a friend who faced the illness of someone they loved dearly. At first, the fear, the helplessness, the grief felt like too much. But as they practiced, as they breathed and softened, as they noticed the moments they still had, something shifted. They began to see the depth in ordinary moments. A hand held, a laugh shared, a quiet look of understanding. The impermanence of life didn't make it sadder. It made it more vivid, more alive, more precious. And maybe that's the heart of what the Buddha was pointing to all along. Life will wobble. Life will change. Life will bring sorrow, loss, joy, love, fear. And yet, through it all, there's a way to live fully, not by clinging, not by resisting, not by pretending it will stay the same, but by moving gently with the flow, by noticing the waves, by holding both joy and sorrow with soft hands, and by cultivating a heart that is awake, kind, and compassionate. So maybe now, as you listen, you can take a moment to breathe, to notice one part of your life that feels heavy, one part that feels bright, one place where you can soften and be present. Even one small breath, one small pause, one small act of awareness is already a step toward living fully. And over time, those steps ripple outwards. They transform not only your life, but the lives of those around you. And the final gentle truth is this: you live to learn. You live to notice. You live to soften, to care, to connect, to love. You live to take the raw materials of your life, the joy and the pain, the ordinary and the extraordinary, and quietly, gently, turn them into understanding, into compassion, into a life that matters. And maybe the most beautiful part is that this journey doesn't begin tomorrow. It doesn't begin when life is easier, when the storm passes. It begins here in this very moment with your very next breath. So maybe if you're listening, you can take that breath now. And if you want to keep exploring this path together, softly, gently, with courage and care, stick around, subscribe, and let's continue to walk through life's waves, its fires, its wobbles, and discover what it truly means to live fully, to love deeply, and to be free inside no matter what comes.